Welcome once again to another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. I'm Steve Gamache, and this time we're looking at the Goko White or Shitogami No. 1 Nashiji Gyuto 240mm knife. So the core steel on this line of knives is Shitogami or white paper No. 1 reactive high carbon steel from Hitachi. They take it to a rather conservative heat treat around 60, so they don't push it too much, which makes it a little more forgiving, and it also makes this steel just ridiculously easy to sharpen. So if you're looking for an easy to sharpen, full-on stainless steel, I'm sorry, full-on reactive carbon steel that will just take an edge like you wouldn't believe, this is a great choice. So almost nothing sharpens as easily as Shitogami No. 1 when appropriately treated. So they do put a soft stainless cladding on either side of that harder core steel for a little bit easier maintenance. So you really only have to worry about that core steel at the edge as far as the patina and the reactivity. The cladding has a mottled finish on it, and it's known as a Nashiji or pear skin type finish. And this line of knives tends to be a little bit on the rustic side, so it's a little bit more rustic and less refined than, let's say, the Masakage Yuki line. But they do a great job on the grinds on these, and the craftsmanship on the actual blade as far as cutting goes is very good. And I bought the Bunka of this line, and it's an awesome knife. So these represent a lot of value. And again, they're a little on the rustic side, but I kind of find that appealing. Some people do, some people don't. But you definitely can see a lot of craftsmanship on these and a lot of work being done. You can feel kind of that blacksmith art coming out of this thing. So it's pretty cool. The weight and dimensions on these are going to vary a bit because of the hand-hammered and hand-done nature of them. But this particular one is 206 grams or 7.3 ounces. It's 245 on the edge, about 9.65 inches. So it's an oversized 240. 400 millimeters on the length overall. And the spine thickness, again, these will vary. This one's about 3.8 millimeters coming out of the handle above the chin, the back of the blade. And I measured about 2.25. This does not have much taper to it, so it just pretty much comes on down. And you could get one maybe with more taper. This particular one doesn't have much taper. And you can see when the grind kicks in, that's where the taper is. So this particular knife, you're going to get some lift on onions and that kind of stuff. And it's not just going to ghost through things, but that tip sure has got some beef to it. So it's a stiff blade. It's a tall blade. It's 55 millimeters. So, and that's a thin neck. So you want to talk about clearance. This is, a very high board clearance on this, tons and tons. So if you like tall Gyuto knives, this is really tall. The handle's a basic octagonal ambidextrous walnut with a black packerwood handle, decent fit and finish on it, pretty good handle install, pretty tight, 75 millimeters, approximately 3 inches circumference right here where the ferrule and the wood meet. And as I said, a fairly thin neck. You got a little bit of spot there for your finger, so it's really easy to do a pinch grip. The blade's pretty big, the handle's pretty light, so that's going to bring the balance point up quite a bit to about right there. So my pinch grip is behind that. So what that does is give you a lot of weight forward power to the cut. So you got a lot of chopping power, a lot of cutting power with this style of blade. So it's definitely a weight forward balance bias on it. Let's take a close-up look. We did that a little bit. Well, we'll do another one. It's a little hard to see on this until you get some patina on it. I think this has a lacquer finish on it that would either wear off with use, or you could put some acetone to it and take it off if you want to, but it's got a little bit of a lacquer finish on it. The edge steel is there, but the it's a little hard to see that line, that cladding line. It's there, though. Like I said, once this starts patina, you'll see it. You've got some chiseled kanji on it right here. It's very small. It's not super, it's pretty flat to the blade, too. It's not raised much. You don't feel too much with your fingers on it, but it is there. Fit and finish. They do a little bit of polish to the spine and the edges just a little bit. You could maybe take down the edges a little bit more in the spine, but I don't think it's objectionable. They did a pretty nice job on the choil as well. So, and these are pretty sharp out of the box. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. It's like not the super cleanest edge bevel in the world I've ever seen, but this is so easy to sharpen. I would probably just redo the edge bevel on this right out of the box. Although, or just use it for a while. It was pretty darn sharp out of the box, maybe 6 out of 10. If you want to get a good reference point and you're not a sharpener or you're just kind of learning, you might want to think about, like on a blade like this, maybe paying for the Chef Knives to Go finish sharpening service, and they'll put a super nice edge on these. It's a very consistent, crisp edge bevel, and that'll do two things for you. It'll get you a feel for just how sharp the steel can get, and believe me, it'll get razor sharp. And also give you a feel when you've got a nicely crafted bevel with no burrs or anything on it, what kind of edge retention you should expect of a nicely crafted edge. So it's well worth the price, the cost of that, if you're kind of new to sharpening. But cool blades. Let's look at the edge profile on the cutting board. As I said, this is a big old honking piece of steel here. So here's your profile. It's not especially flat. You can see you got a bit of back belly here towards the rear. And then it'll get really high. This has a fair amount of, you can see the tip's fairly high, kind of a midway across the knife as far as height goes. So you've got a fairly aggressive belly towards the tip, and I can get pretty darn high on this. And so this will rock really nice, push pull. It's not a pure chopper. Profiles can vary a bit, but this is kind of a general characteristic of their profiles, but fairly aggressive belly towards the tip. So rock really well, push pull cuts, that kind of stuff, as I mentioned. So just a really interesting line of knives. The core steel is really good. They do a nice job on the Shitogami. It's a conservative heat treat for a little bit of forgiveness, plus it just makes it crazy easy to sharpen these. So this is the Goko Shitogami, or white number 1 Nashiji or pear skin Gyuto 240mm knife.